Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Broadloom's Webinar Wednesday series. I'm Dan Pratt, co-founder of Broadloom, and we're going to be doing something a little bit different today. I guess the first difference is today is Thursday, not Wednesday, but more importantly than that, today's content is going to come from a workshop that we gave a couple of weeks ago during Jason Goldberg's 48-hour bootcamp. Now, the topic of the workshop was around artificial intelligence and how flooring retailers today need to be using these tools to help better grow their business. I'm really excited for you guys to get an inside look at this content and begin using some of the tools that we mentioned in the workshop to help support your businesses right this very second. So without further ado, here is our workshop on artificial intelligence and how to master AI tools to grow your flooring business.
So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Dan Pratt. I'm one of the co-founders of Broadloom. Todd and I met while working at Google. I'm sure all of you at this point have heard that story about 1,000 times. We're obsessed, obviously, with helping flooring businesses find new technologies to help them grow. And when we look at that statement, it's not just Broadloom technology, right? It's any technology, which is one of the big reasons why we wanted to talk about artificial intelligence today. Quick fun fact about myself, my parents were one of the first franchisees of Subway, the sandwich chain. So grew up working in those restaurants. And we never went on vacations growing up as a kid. My dad would drag us to events kind of like this, like Subway conferences. So a little bit more deli meat at those events than an event like this. But I'm happy to be here today to talk about this topic because it's one of the things that I think every single person here can start to leverage and see a lot of value from. Quick poll by show of hands. How many folks were at my AI talk last year during Bootcamp? Okay, it's a couple. All right, so some of this might be a little bit of a repeat for you guys. We're going to do some level setting to start. I want to make sure everyone's on the same page in terms of their understanding of artificial intelligence and how it works. We'll talk a little bit about the AI landscape in 2024. And then we're going to get our hands dirty and start to talk about the tools that you guys have access to right now that you can start to use in different ways that you can use them to support some of the things that you're focused on as business owners here. All right? And then we'll end with some key takeaways and hopefully have some time left over for your questions. Sound good? Sounds good. All right. So let's first talk about what is artificial intelligence. All right. So at the end of the day, when you look at the technology, it's simply a field of computer science that aims to create intelligent machines that can learn, reason, and solve problems like humans. Better way of saying that is they're fancy, smart robots. Right? Now, last year when I gave this presentation, I said artificial intelligence is going to change how we move about the world. And I made an update to the slide this year because it is fundamentally changing how we move about the world right this very instant, right? And it's crazy how much has happened in the last 12 months. And so I think it's important for everyone here to understand what those changes are. And again, to understand ways that you can leverage this technology to stay ahead of the curve, because there are lots of people right now that aren't thinking about these tools, right? And if you can start to invest that time and effort today, you're going to be ahead of them pretty quickly. So this is a question we get quite a bit. Should I care? I mean, I got a lot to do growing my business. Like, why do I need another thing to research and learn more about? I pulled some data to kind of make the case around why everyone should be thinking about this. The SBEC ran a study earlier this year to take a look at how small businesses in 2023 were leveraging artificial intelligence. And that study showed that almost 50% of small businesses were starting to incorporate AI into their daily workflows and processes. 50%. I mean, that's just an insane number. If you had run that same analysis like 2 years ago, it would have been maybe a quarter of that. And so I think what that trend shows us is more adoption is taking place, but it's still early, right? So if you start to invest in learning how these tools work today, you're going to be prepared for when these tools get really good, right? These tools are great now, but they have so much more room to grow. And so it's important to understand the basics so that you're not having to like catch up to speed 2 or 3 years from now when this stuff really starts to take over the world. Billions of dollars have been invested in AI technology companies over the last couple of years, like maybe hundreds of billions of dollars. And so what that means is there are now hundreds and hundreds of AI companies using that capital to innovate and build really interesting tools that will have an impact on your business. And so the goal for everyone here should be to understand what those tools are and how you can start to use them, because they aren't going away, right? There's so much investment being made and so much at stake that this technology is here to stay. So what we're going to take away from today's conversation is, what are some of the main players in the space and what are some of the features that should hopefully make the case for why you guys should care. All right? So here's just a quick snapshot of the AI landscape in 2024. This is like a very small snapshot. If I put a logo here for every AI company that started in the last 12 months, there'd be like 1,000 tiles on this slide deck. But here are some of the more interesting ones. We're going to focus mostly today on OpenAI. OpenAI and their tool, which you guys probably have all heard of or used, ChatGPT. Have you guys have all heard about ChatGPT? Yes? Have you used it? Some nodding heads, okay, a little bit. All right, so OpenAI is like the gold standard for AI companies in 2024. Okay, they're the top dog. Gemini is Google's answer to OpenAI. Meta AI is Facebook's answer to OpenAI. And so you can see, these are the largest technology companies in the world, again, investing billions of dollars to create the best AI platform out there. Midjourney is a tool that we covered during the last bootcamp. That is a tool that uses AI to generate images. Canva is a design tool. Does anyone here use Canva? Got a few hands. Canva is one of my favorite tools on the internet. I'm a horrible graphic designer, but Canva makes me look like a genius. And they've incorporated AI into their tool suite recently that's made that product even more valuable. So for you guys, if you need support building creative for your website or your Facebook ads, Canva is a really good tool to experiment with to get some of that work done for you. Suno is AI for music. We'll put a pin in that. We'll come back to that later in today's presentation. I'm not going to try to pronounce this company's name. I've butchered it twice already today. But they are AI for video. So again, you feed it information. It sends back a video that you can use. And then Grammarly is a godsend for me. It makes sure that I don't have any grammatical mistakes in any of the emails I send, and it leverages AI to spot when I make mistakes. Okay? So again, this is just a snapshot. But you can see here that AI is touching everything, right? It's not just one segment of one market, right? It's literally, its applications are boundless at this point, which can maybe feel a little bit overwhelming if you're getting into this for the first time. So hopefully today we'll be able to break some of this stuff down and give you some actionable takeaways that you can start to leverage as soon as today. Okay. We're going to talk about ChatGPT 4.0 and give a quick overview. Most of you guys have raised your hands when I asked, what is ChatGPT? Are you familiar with it? But just to pop up really quickly, ChatGPT is an AI chatbot that was created by the company OpenAI. All right, so some of those, they're the same company, ChatGPT and OpenAI. And ChatGPT was one of the first AI products that was launched that showed what was possible with these big, large language models that powered the technology itself, right? You can ask the AI to write you a blog post, and it writes you a blog post, right? You can ask the AI to, come up with some good Facebook ad content, and it's going to spit out a few answers. The first time I used it was like a magical experience, right? Like, oh my God, it just wrote me a blog post. I remember sending John Weller a text message about a blog post on hardwood flooring that was written in like 3 seconds, right? So they set the standard, and they've been building on the lead that they've generated over the years. Recently, they announced an update to their system called GPT 4.0, and that's going to be the focus of our demonstration today. We'll talk about GPT 4.0. As part of that launch, they launched what are now known as GPTs. So GPTs are basically custom versions of ChatGPT that can be made by any person or company, right? So if I, Dan Pratt, wanted to build a custom GPT, I could build it on top of OpenAI's platform and have it live within ChatGPT's interface. An easier way maybe of thinking about it is Apple's App Store, right? How many of you guys have iPhones? Most everybody here? All right, so Apple has its App Store. You go to the App Store to download, I don't know, an app that is a calculator, right? Or, gives you food recommendations. Those apps are built by third-party companies that don't have anything to do with Apple, but have provided more utility to the iPhone, because now it can do a bunch of different things. GPTs are OpenAI's version of that, right? So you have thousands of engineers, the smartest people in the world, that are now building on OpenAI's platform to make that tool even more valuable for you guys. So we're going to show a couple of GPTs that I think are the most interesting for this specific use case, and show you how to use them. But it's one of the cooler announcements that have been made on this platform in the last 12 months. Is there a question?
So they just specialize chats?
Correct. Yeah. Yep. So they do very specific things. Any other questions about GPTs before we move on? Okay. All right, so I've been talking a little bit about GPT 4.0. So the question might be, what is it? What's the difference between GPT 4.0 and ChatGPT 3? GPT 4.0 is the latest flagship AI model from OpenAI. It's a multimodal model, which means that it can natively handle text, audio, and images. And what I mean by that is you can feed it text like you could ChatGPT 3, and it can give you a response. But you can also feed it audio, and it can decipher that audio, or images, and it can decipher those images and interact with you through those forms of communication as well. So an example, and I saw a demo of this recently, is fascinating. You can use GPT 4.0 to do real-time translation, right? So I can, on my phone, say, I'm going to speak to you in Italian. No, sorry, I'm going to speak to you in English. My friend here is going to speak to you in Italian. Please translate everything that I say into Italian and everything he says into English. And it will do it for you in real time. And the magic of this update is how quickly it works and processes this information. It's able to do this in milliseconds, right? So no different than the time it takes for me to ask you a question and for you to give me a response. And so it's the most real feeling AI system that's out today. And it's still in early development, right? Like the scary thing about this technology is it's still so early, which is why I've been stressing the importance of starting to do your research now so that you can stay ahead of the curve, because there's still so much more room to grow here. The O in GPT 4.0 just stands for Omni, right? And that just means, again, it can handle these multiple different types of inputs, text, photos, so on and so forth. Okay. The last thing we're going to cover today, this is the final bit of vegetables, and then we'll get into dessert. Prompts. How many of you here know what a prompt is? A few people that were at my last. Okay. So prompts are basically the questions or statements that you ask the AI to guide its response, right? So if I want to create a blog post, I'm going to tell the AI, write me a blog post about hardwood flooring. That's a bad prompt, and I'll tell you why in a second, but that would be an example of a prompt. Write me a blog post on hardwood flooring. There are such things as bad prompts, right? Because if you give the AI a limited amount of information, it's not going to have maybe enough information to work and create the most natural sounding piece of content, right? So a better way of looking at prompts is give it all the information that you need for it to come back to you with something that sounds real and natural. And we'll show you what that looks like in a second. How to write a good prompt is one of the more frequently asked questions I get, right? Like this is an example of a prompt that I wrote, how do I make it better? And the first thing that we're going to talk about today is how you can do that through the use of AI so that you don't have to bug me after this presentation. So right now we're going to talk about 4 ways that you can use ChatGPT 4.0 today. And the first thing that we're going to talk about is prompt creation. Again, good prompts require some thought, right? Oftentimes, though, you don't have the time to like really spend and invest in creating like the best prompt possible. And one of the cool things about GPT-4o is, again, its use of GPTs to do a bunch of really cool and interesting things. One of those is called prompt engineer. So prompt engineer is going to take your really crummy prompt and turn it into something that's actually going to produce results that you're looking for in the AI. So I'm going to show you an example of this in real time, and we can talk through it together. So let's say I wanted to write a blog post on hardwood flooring, okay? Most people, when they start using these tools for the first time, they'll do something like this. Write me a blog post on hardwood flooring. This is a terrible prompt, right? You're not giving the AI any information to go off of except for write me a blog post on hardwood flooring. And so you want to expand on this thought, but you can use this tool to help you do that. So what I'll say here is, please improve the following prompt. I always say please and thank you to the AI, just in case they take over. Okay. So you can see in real time, it's going to provide me with a better prompt, okay? Now, one of the cool things about this tool is I can ask it to ask me questions that it thinks it needs to know to write the best prompt possible. I'm not going to do that now for the sake of time, but I could say, hey, write me a better version of this prompt. Feel free to ask me any questions you need an answer to write the best version of this prompt that you can. And it might ask me, what business are you in? Where are you located? Who are your customers? So on and so forth, right? And I can answer those questions, and then it will write me a better prompt. But let's just look at the difference between my original prompt, right? Write me a blog post on hardwood flooring, and what it came back with. Write a detailed blog post about hardwood flooring. The blog post should cover the following topics, right? Introduction, types of hardwood flooring, benefits of hardwood, so on and so forth. Make sure the tone is informative and engaging, suitable for a general audience interested in home improvement. Include subheadings for each section to enhance readability. What you're going to get back from that versus what you started with is night and day. You could ask this to optimize for SEO. It's still to be determined if AI-generated content gets negatively impacted via SEO. But you could certainly add some keywords in here if you wanted to. But tools like Prompt Engineer just take all the work out of you sitting there thinking about what can I do to improve this prompt. So I'll stop there to see if there are any questions. We're just scratching the surface of the cool stuff that we're going to cover today.
So you can take that back to 4.0.
Yep. So what I would do here, yeah, so right now you can see here I'm in Prompt Engineer, right? So all I would need to do is copy this, create a chat, paste it in, and that's the prompt. I don't have to do anything else, and it'll generate. We can do it. So I'll do this. I'll start a new chat. So this is GPT-4o, okay?
Prompt Engineer is just underneath chat.
Yeah, it's like an app. Yep. So I can copy and paste, and then it's just going to write the content for me.
Is 4.0 free or cheap?
So there are parts of it that are free right now, but it is a paid. It's their paid model. So you guys can start to see the difference between a good prompt and a bad prompt, right? A good prompt will feel pretty real at the end of the day. Any questions on this? All right. We're just scratching the surface here.
Our grandparents go to school after this. Our grandkids.
Yeah, maybe not. All right.
App for them, right? It's at the touch of their fingertips.
Okay, it's going to get way cooler than this, I promise you. Okay, so we talked about prompt creation. We're going to actually use prompt creation a little bit later on today's presentation. The next thing I want to show you guys is how you can use GPT-4o to actually create PowerPoint presentations for your sales team, your staff, your customers, because GPT-4o can use the internet the larger internet, the current internet, to pull in information and include it in things like PowerPoint presentations, okay? So we're gonna go back to GPT. And you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go back to prompt engineer, right? And I'm gonna say, please Okay, so we're going to take this information, we're going to copy it, and we're going to go to this GPT, which is called Presentations and Slides. It's free. And I'm just going to, let me do this. I'm going to ask it, just tell me what you can do. Because I think one good takeaway from this conversation is if you don't know how to use these tools, just ask it. Like the AI will tell you what it can do, and it will give you the answers to the test, right? So when I ask, tell me what you can do, it says, hey, I can create presentations for you, I can generate individual slides, I can use relevant images. Okay, great, that's awesome. Now I'm gonna feed it a bunch of information, and let's see what it comes back with. So it's giving me the plan. It's saying this is what's gonna happen on slide 1, slide 2, and slide 3. Now it's going to say, hey, I'm going to send this information out to the company that created this technology, which is another AI company, and they're going to do the work to build the slides for you. Again, this is all happening through the computer. There's no one behind the scenes like quickly making some slides. Yeah. You'll see. It happens fast. Okay, so. All right, so you can see it's talking to slidesgpt.com, which is the company that built this technology. Now it's saying the action is starting, right? Starting action. That means it's starting to create the slides for me in the AI. It's talking to slidesgpt again. They're going to talk back and forth for a little bit, and then you'll see if this wonderful hotel Wi-Fi does what it's supposed to do. You'll start to see the content being created in real time. I'm going to blame the hotel Wi-Fi on this. Okay. All right, so let's see how it did. Now, before we dive into the results here, I think I said at the start of this presentation, this is still early innings for this technology, right? So I don't want you to look at this as like the final form, right? These tools are getting better every single day. So I want you to look at this output and how quickly it put together slide information without me having to lift a finger, and think about what it's going to do a year from now, 2 years from now, right? This is only going to get better. But let's see how it did. Okay, I asked it to create a slide deck for me on hardwood flooring. So it put together an introduction slide for me, right? Introducing hardwood flooring. It's pulled in some pictures of hardwood. It's giving me some information on the aesthetic appeal. I can come in here and view what the slides look like. I've already downloaded the example from the last session, so I'll just run you through that. So look, it's saying, here's what hardwood flooring is, here's the different types, here's the benefits, right? Now I can go back into the GPT and I can say, hey, I didn't like the picture in slide 3, can you replace it, right? Or can you add more examples in slide 2? You can go back and forth and create a version that makes the most sense for you. But the fact that we were able to give it just a little bit of information and a prompt that took us 1 second to put together, and for it to spit out slides with photos and bullet points, I mean, that's pretty impressive stuff when you're taking a look at just how effortless it was.
So you start to just drill down on your own specifics too? Like, can you say, pull images from my phone?
Yeah, so not yet, okay. Not yet. So let me actually, that's a good segue.
Or from a website, can you say, hey, can you pull images? can you create a sales presentation from my company's website, blah, blah, blah?
Yeah, so not yet. That might come though in the future. What I do want to show you is how you can leverage your own data with the help of some of this AI technology to help start to analyze some of the trends in your business, okay? So good segue. The next thing we're gonna cover is data analysis. All right, so one of the cool things that happened with this update to GPT-4o is the ability to upload your own information and have the AI run analysis on that data, okay? So I'm gonna do this for you guys here, again, in real time. I'm gonna add this Bootcamp data test spreadsheet that I put together. This has a bunch of dummy data in it, and you'll see what I mean by that. So I'm now sending the AI the spreadsheet, okay? Now it's analyzing it. And it's gonna send me a confirmation. It's gonna say, okay, I analyzed all this information. What do you want me to do with it? Okay, so it's saying, hey, first name, last name, what marketing lead channel did this sale come from? What zip code, what flooring type? What was the purchase price of that particular product? Who was the manufacturer? What was the sales month? Who was the salesperson? So on and so forth, okay? So yeah, so it's asking me, what do you want me to do with this data? Now, let's say I wanna know who the best performing salesperson was in 2023. Just have to ask it, who the best performing. Okay, so now it's gonna read through all of that data. There's about 1,000 lines of data for it to sift through. And it's gonna tell me in just a couple of seconds, the best performing salesperson in 2023 was Jeff, and he closed just over $2.5 million in sales. Good year for Jeff. That came from the spreadsheet with all the data that I gave it access to, okay? Now I can say, okay, thank you.
Do you have to?
No. Listen, it's your funeral, I guess, in like 10 years when they take over. Okay, so we can say, okay, thank you.
Pretty cordial.
Yeah.
Have you asked it if it's self-aware?
No, that's too scary of a game for me to play. What was Jeff's largest sale in 2023? Let's see if it gives us the answer. That's pretty crazy, right? That it just effortlessly gave me that information. Now let's say I wanted to compare Jeff with all the other salespeople on the sales team, but I wanted to visualize how the sales team performed overall. I can say, can you please create me a bar graph that shows this is a terrible prompt, but let's see if it can figure out what I'm trying to say. So I want it to just create me a bar graph that shows me all of my salespeople and how they performed in 2023. Now again, it's going to take all the information and it's going to generate me a bar graph in just a couple of seconds, right? So it's saying, Jeff is here at 2.6 million in sales. He was the highest performing salesperson, and it looks like Catherine, she barely crossed $500,000 in sales in 2023. Right? Now I can take this information, I can download it, I can export it into Excel, right? So it's not just able to analyze the data, it's also able to visualize the data in just a couple of seconds. So listen, if you have big data engineering teams that work for you and they're in Excel every day, maybe this tool isn't valuable. But if you're a one-man band, right, and you got 1 million spinning plates to manage and you just want an answer to a simple question, these tools can make that really easy for you to figure out. I use this, since this launched, I'm using this like every day. I oversee all of our sales teams at Broadloom, and sometimes you just want to know who's crushing it on the sales team. Upload the information, get the answer right away.
So example, I'm spending X amount of dollars on advertising 6 different cities. I bring RLM in, make a bar graph of which sales went to which cities where if we don't have this, we'd have to manually go in there and count.
Yeah. So
like an Excel formula to find out, hey, I had 50 here.
yeah, I can say, what zip code did we sell the most Mohawk? Or yeah, do you want to say the most hardwood in? So the zip code with the most hardwood sales in 2023 is 11234 with the total purchase price of $1.3 million.
So you could do like the top 10 and top 20 zip codes.
Yeah. Yep, and have it listed up for you in a chart.
Category,
Yep.
product, or whatever.
Yeah. And again, if you're good at Excel, maybe you just want to do this on your own, but I'm an idiot when it comes to Excel. Like, this is a game changer for me. It looks like I know what I'm doing. And so, I think it's worth us spending a little bit more time with you guys if there's interest in it and showing you how you can apply the information that you have access to as a Broadloom customer with the help of some of these tools because, to Tim's point, like, there's so much value out of being able to take these large, complex sets of data and just starting to streamline it in a way where you can identify trends that can then influence where you're spending your marketing dollars, what manufacturers you decide to work with, what products you start to market on your website maybe a little bit more. The options are pretty endless when you get into the weeds. Yeah, so how many of you here are using our new email marketing solution? One? Kind of? No? So we launched it very recently, maybe like a couple months ago, and that's the first product that we've rolled out where AI is like deeply integrated into the experience. And yeah, so the way that we're leveraging AI in that platform is, so it's an email marketing tool, meaning we generate email content for your customer lists, right? So if you want to run, yes. No, we do, yeah. We don't trust the AI to like write anything, to be honest with you, right now. Yeah, it's an add-on that you would add to. I'm sorry? I think it was like 2 months ago, John. Yeah, a couple months ago. There's 3 packages. You're putting me on the spot here a little bit as the head of the sales team. I think the basic package is like $400, something like that, $400 a month. But what it does is it basically generates email campaigns that you can send to your audiences, right? So if you wanted to, for example, run an email campaign where the goal of the campaign was to generate more reviews, right? Or to get someone that you recently worked with to leave you a review, you'd be able to send that email and elicit that review. Or referrals, marketing campaigns, so on and so forth. Where we leverage AI is, think about when you send an email out, there are so many different factors that are going to determine how people are interacting with that email. What day you send the email, what time you send the email, the different segments you're sending that email to. So we're using AI to hone in on what times of day, days of week, content styles, writing styles, our subject lines are causing the open rates to be at the highest rate that they can be, and then just optimizing from there. So that's more of like in the weeds, like data analysis on how we can get the marketing campaigns that we create for our customers to perform better. But we've talked a lot about, leveraging other AI elements into the broader ecosystem to provide more insights for, the folks that we work with today. That's a lot of work though, right? Just to be very transparent with you guys. Todd mentioned this yesterday about Rollmaster. There's a lot of work that's going into making that possible, but the future is kind of showing itself pretty clearly when it comes to these things. Okay, for the sake of time, I want to move on here, and we're going to cover logo creation really, really quickly, because GPT-4o can actually create image content for you, logos being one of them. So this is something that we get asked every now and then. Hey, can you like redesign my logo for me? We don't really do that. So we would send people to like Canva or Fiverr, one of these like outsourced shops to do that work for them. Now we say, use the AI. I mean, at least as a starting point, and then from there you can, take those ideas and have a professional designer clean it up or whatever. But the AI does a pretty good job at building out these assets for you if you know what information to provide it. So I think I have an example of this already created, so we don't have to start from the ground up. Let me see here.
While you're looking for that, is AI still, if you ask it to get you an image with flooring, it's it's not actual flooring, it's what do you call it, not cartoon, but.
Clip art,
Not even clip art,
render animated.
yeah, animated.
Yeah, you can, here, let me, this will be maybe more beneficial for you guys. So Dolly is a tool built by OpenAI. And this is their version of Midjourney, right? This is their tool that can help generate like images for you. So it all depends on the prompt, but you can say, you know, create me an image, a photo. I'm just gonna keep going. All right, let's see what it comes up with. I mean, this is, again, if I had more time to develop a better prompt.
So Dolly's inside of ChatGPT.
Dolly's inside of ChatGPT. This tool was actually built by OpenAI, the makers of ChatGPT. It's not the best, to be honest with you. I think Midjourney is better. It's harder to use, though. So in terms of like ease of use, Dolly works quite well. So again, I gave it a really bad prompt. So let's maybe give it some credit here. I asked it to create a photorealistic image of a living room in a mid-century modern style with natural hardwood flooring, and these are the options that it gave me. So you could probably do better than this if you use Prompt Engineer to give you a better prompt to use. But I mean, for a couple seconds of me poorly typing words that were misspelled, I mean, I think it did a pretty good job.
So did it just scroll and find that picture online?
No. This is like, I can say, can you add a purple on the coffee table? No. Ugh. Oh no.
Back up, everybody.
Yeah, I'm screwed. Yeah.
But there's still renderings, I guess, is the word.
Yeah, listen, it still has limitations. You could get really specific with the inputs you're giving it. Like you could, yeah, there we go. Okay,
It's not on it though.
not on the coffee table. We dock it points. How quickly do we just take it for granted? It's not on the coffee table. It just generated a purple dinosaur. I mean, so Tim, there are ways that you can like make this even more realistic. Like you can give it like camera presets, like aperture setting and shutter and all this other stuff that is over my head. And it will look more photorealistic than what it looks here. But again, I mean, if it was given a better prompt, it would have been a little bit more realistic.
I just type things like, based on what we do, can you create a sales presentation that focuses on being motivated to go out and prospect new leads? So, sort of what Jake, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
The presentation you just typed up.
Yeah.
I'm blown away.
Yeah. So hopefully,
I couldn't type this up as well.
so we're gonna cover one last thing before we wrap things up. One last thing, this bonus section. So we've talked for a long time today about the benefits of GPT-4o, and that's an OpenAI tool, okay? We're gonna talk about Suno. Suno has nothing to do with OpenAI. Suno is a separate company. We actually share the same investors as Suno. What's up, Jeff?
You guys are already into the break, but close out in 10 minutes, so take your time.
Okay.
We share what?
We share an investor. And so I've got to see this technology progress over the last year, and it's crazy how good these tools have gotten. So Suno is a tool that can help you generate music via AI. So you feed Suno a text prompt, right? You know, write me a song in the style of the Beatles about how good my flooring options are, and it's going to generate that song for you in just a few seconds. So we're going to end today's presentation with a jingle. We're going to try to get the AI to generate a short jingle for our flooring business. I need a volunteer though. Who wants to be?
Peak flooring.
Peak flooring? All right. Create me a, hold on, let's do this. A 30-second pop. For my flooring store. The name of the store is Peak Flooring. We sell hardwood, carpet, and tile flooring. We want the tone to be upbeat and happy. Okay, so we gave it the prompt. Let's see what it comes up with. I'm not gonna lie, this sometimes is a little hit or miss. We might come up with a very cringy song. It might be the song of the year. We're not gonna know until the AI is done doing its thing. If these two songs suck, I have a backup just in case. So.
Could you also upload your current jingle and to this platform and tell it to make it more modern?
Yeah, there's a paid version of this that allows you to like edit, and you know the crazy thing about this tool is, and AI in general, is there are musicians now that are just using the AI. Like they're creating music from start to finish just using the AI. There's actually a song right now that's on the radio that's like one of the more popular songs. Like if you go to Spotify's like top 100, it's in like the top 10. That was first generated through AI, 100%, and then a popular DJ like remixed it, and that song blew up. But it's 100% AI generated.
You know which one it is?
I don't want to say the name. It's a little bit of an inappropriate name. Yeah, it's called BBL Drizzy is the name of the song. It's called BBL Drizzy is the name of the song. It is the catchiest song I've ever heard in my life, and it's all AI generated. Okay, Peak Flooring. We got our jingles. Let's see how the AI did. All right.
Step into style with Peak Flooring.
Nope.
Hardwood carpet tile exploring. Find your magic.
Nope, that's not the right one. Nope. Okay. All right, let's try this one.
Step into style with Peak Flooring.
That one's not bad.
Hardwood carpet tile exploring. Find your match in every corner.
Let's see what the chorus sounds like.
Peak flooring makes life warmer. Hardwood floors that
This is all free. Yeah. All right. That one's okay. My favorite is still the company that doesn't exist, Dan's Discount Flooring. So we will end this presentation with this song, all right?
You force a day. Dan's got the way. Hardwood tile carpet discount price. You love it.
You guys ready?
Dan's Discount Flooring.
I mean, this is so good. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so we'll wrap things up there. Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate it.
All right, Mr. Dan's Discount Flooring, the jingle of the summer. Again,
I forgot
awesome
how catchy that song was, Jeff. That's gonna be stuck in my head all day.
I think it's going to be stuck in all our heads. The song hit of the summer, brought to you by AI, as well as the other inappropriate one that you referenced. But I think the big takeaway here, right, when you first did your first AI presentation, I don't want to say a year ago, but well, let's say 6 to 8 months ago, right? AI was at a very different place than where it is today. And we're really starting to see in front of our eyes a true technical revolution, and starting to understand how flooring retailers can take advantage of that. The wheels just start going. So I'm sure, based on some of the questions I've seen come in, definitely a lot of interest on this topic. And Dan, I believe we're doing a series around these, correct?
Yeah. So when we hosted the Bootcamp workshop a few weeks ago, we got a lot of really good feedback about the topic, and there seems to be just like growing interest, generally speaking, about AI and how a lot of the businesses that we work with can start to apply some of these tools today and kind of get ahead of the curve. And so, this webinar was almost supposed to serve as a primer, right? So you can watch this, maybe take some of the things that we talked about and begin experimenting. But we would love to put together a more in-depth discussion on how some of these tools can really be leveraged if you're a Broadloom customer, or even if you're not, frankly. And so we will be certainly adding to the content around AI over the next few weeks.
All right, so stay tuned, y'all. We got a lot coming up. But first, the questions that you have on this most recent session. First up, we have Mr. Brad Rushing. Can you give us some insights on the ways to use AI for marketing content? Dan, why don't you start this off, and then I can clean things up around here.
Yeah, our VP of marketing is going to make me look dumb by answering this question. We'll see. So it's a great question. And, I think a lot of the stuff that we talked about in the webinar can be applied to different marketing campaigns that you might be focusing on as a business. So let me break it up into maybe a couple of different categories and go from there. So one category for me would be content. So when I think of content for the purposes of flooring business, I think of maybe educational content that you can provide to customers that are curious about working with you or curious about installing new floors in their home, but are unfamiliar with a lot of the terminology that we as members of the flooring industry have kind of taken for granted. The differences between LVP and hardwood, right? Or the best flooring for pet owners, topics that I think consumers are searching for answers online, but don't have easy access to that information. So that's one like really obvious examples that you can begin to explore with good prompts. These tools can help generate that content for you, and you can use that content on your website or in even handouts when people walk into your showroom. The options are really limitless when it comes to that. So that's the first category, content. I think the second category is an offshoot of content, and we talked about it again during the webinar, which is around things like email marketing, right? And tools that you might be already using today, but with AI, you can start to use them better by leveraging more data to help make smarter decisions. So what time should you be sending emails to your customers, right? What subject lines are going to work the best? It used to be back in the day, Jeff and I can attest to this as marketers, you'd spend hours trying to sift through the data, subject line, open rates, and all this stuff. And now you can just feed a spreadsheet into the AI and have it tell you what campaigns are performing the best. It's really kind of streamlined the process in a lot of ways. So that would be another example. Jeff, I don't know if you have any other examples as the VP of marketing here, but.
Once if I just said no, just move on. But literally, you can use AI for marketing content in literally any way. So, first off, I can even punch in how to use AI marketing content for flooring retailers and get a massive list of answers. But really, a lot of people, I think, when they think of AI or they see some of the animations or segments of people using AI and just getting text prompts back, like, oh, it's just content, right? But it's not, right? There's so much more that the platforms now do, whether it's generating images to start to A/B test different promotions you want to run. Is it a picture of the dog and the kid, or is it the happy purchaser in the home? and then even using the AI to analyze that data, like you're saying, Dan. But pretty much if there's a task that involves marketing, you can use AI for it. Think about your website, right? We think about the content marketing side. Oh, I'm going to write an email for this. Oh, it's going to help me with social copy. You have things like product descriptions, right? You have blog posts and articles. You have the social media aspect, like you were talking about, Dan. We're starting to use AI in our actual products for flooring businesses, like our AI-powered email marketing. And again, is it writing the copy? Is it creating the images? Is it finding the right time to optimize all that content? And recently, if you look at what Google is saying, is we're going to start to factor in how AI is being leveraged on websites within the algorithm. And you see a lot of dealers and a lot of businesses who are starting to lean in there. All of a sudden, the old way of doing SEO, because that's the fun thing about SEO, it's always changing. It's now running through AI. Now, obviously, Google has an angle on that with their product Gemini, and we'll get into a couple of the other options. I know there's some questions about which platforms to start on. But Brad, shoot me a note because, as everyone knows, I can talk a lot. Happy to answer any questions that you might have specific to marketing content and how you can leverage AI. But literally, it's boundless. And if you're curious yourself, punch in that prompt to AI, and you'll literally see 10 pages of recommendations of how it can be leveraged. All right, let's pull up the next question. I think we have 4 or 5 more after this, so definitely a lot of interest. I also beg, please, y'all, we'll always accept the questions via email. It's always helpful to have it in the chat so everyone can see. But here's one that came in right in the beginning of the session. If you're starting out with one AI platform, this is a great question. Which would you recommend? Does one platform perform certain tasks better than others? And it's funny, Dan, you could probably run a couple of tests and then ask the AIs to evaluate which one's better. I wonder if it can identify its own work. But Dan, in your experience, because I think it's hard to say is one better than the other, but have you found success with one comparatively to others?
Yeah, I actually think there is one clear winner today. And again, things are moving so quickly that might change over the months and years as development increases. But I think what OpenAI is doing is unlike any company out there right now, and they have so many resources at their disposal. Since we recorded this webinar at Bootcamp, OpenAI announced a formal partnership with Apple and will now be powering Siri on the iPhones when the new iOS launches later this year. And so they just have access to more data, more resources. They're well capitalized. And so I think they are definitely at the bleeding edge of this industry. And in my opinion, it's worth spending the time, the very limited time you might have if you're also running a flooring business, on that platform and building familiarity there. Having said that, I also think like the skills that you'll acquire by spending time on a platform like GPT-4o is going to help with other generative AI platforms, right? Like they all kind of function in similar ways. And so, there are nuanced differences between them, right? Like one might generate content a bit better than the other, but for all intents and purposes, I would say focus on the OpenAI platform because that's where more of the advancements are coming from at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Dan, you talked about the dynamic nature of this area, and with each release, each platform is getting exponentially better. Definitely agree with you on the front that OpenAI's ChatGPT is definitely a superior overall AI platform. They now have, for those who are using it, if you look at the left-hand side, there are so many plugins and apps and additional sort of widgets that they are now allowing into the platform. So if you want to see a picture of you as a Disney animated car, they can do that. In terms of data analysis, things like some of the jingles. Dan, I believe that was Sumo. But honestly, there was a big change, because we're constantly looking at these platforms, every few days on the marketing team. For us, believe it or not, over the last month or so, something happened with Google Gemini, and it sounds a lot more human than ChatGPT. And we've done side by side prompt analysis. And, the one thing we always stress this because we don't want you to view AI as a silver bullet, because then you lose your uniqueness, right? You lose sort of things that make you in the market. But the first drafts that you get to work off of, so instead of having writer's block and sitting there and trying to think of these ideas, you can draft really fast. But we've seen, at least on the marketing content side, that Gemini, has been very easy to use and sounds a little bit more human and requires significantly less work. And look, I'm sure it's going to ping pong back and forth. You have two major players in the space who are investing, as Dan said, both extremely well capitalized and very passionate to sort of be the clear-cut winner. It's going to be very exciting to see how these developments continue to grow, which perfectly segues into one of our questions on how do we think this is going to grow. Let's pull up that question here. So in terms of, where is it? All right, I can just pull it up from the email. All right. Okay, so when you're looking at the different here it comes. Maybe the AI is upset with us. Okay, well, we're going to go in terms of cost, tools, and implementation. So, a lot of people want to get into this space, right? They want to figure out how they can leverage this for this business. But is there a price to pay, right? There's no such thing as a free lunch. So, Dan, does it cost any money to implement and use these AI tools?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think the industry is so nascent, right? It's so early that a lot of these companies are trying to gobble up market share as quickly as they can. So in some ways, we're in like the golden age, right? In terms of the early innings of AI. So let's use ChatGPT as an example, or OpenAI as an example. You can use their latest flagship model, the one that we demoed as part of today's webinar. You can use elements of that model for free. You can experiment with it and see if it's a good fit for you, and try different things and applications for your business to see if it makes sense. And if it is valuable, you pay a monthly fee for it, and that monthly fee is, it's like a couple cups of coffee throughout the course of a month. So the barrier to entry is quite small at this point compared to, other forms of technology where, you're spending thousands of dollars to get access to the latest model, right? Apple and their AI goggles, or whatever they're calling it. That's $3,000 or $4,000 for someone to spend. That barrier of entry is quite high. So compared to things like that, everyone should have the ability to go out there and run some experimentation to see how it would make sense for their business, and make your decision from there.
Yeah, look, to really access these platforms, and even sometimes when you're using them, it'll restrict your usage based on it. But, definitely test it out. I think if you're willing and committed to use the platforms, the investment makes it, you'll see the ROI in no time, right? But if you pay for it, use it once, don't really iterate it, don't give your time, self time to explore the platforms, then it probably won't be worth it. So it's just like anything you do, right? Golf is going to be extremely expensive if you don't go out and actually use the clubs, but they're expensive to buy. So, but they'll last forever. So it just depends on how frequent, how committed you are to doing the work and learning the thing. And again, I think you'll see that ROI in no time. And these costs are relatively nominal for the impact that it can have in your business. But again, depends on how much you're going to use it. Going back to the question that was flipped. So in terms of the growth that we've seen in AI, Dan, like from the first iterations that we saw when ChatGPT first came out and everyone's minds were blown, I feel like there's been, in my opinion, I'm curious what your thoughts are here. I feel like there's been two waves. It's sort of like the first one where it's like look at this thing, look at the level of information it responds to and all these ideas. And that, I think that's why a lot of people view it as like content only, right? Text. And then this next wave that just hit us hard out of nowhere over the last 2 to 3 months has really expanded into, you know, the visual side. Like when we first looked at Midjourney, and they were one of the first early, you know, AI sort of illustrative platforms. If you look at what that was, when you had to put in the prompt to give you 4 different options, you had to pick one, and it keeps rendering, versus what you get now. Things like the song, the data analysis, and there's a million different pop-ups. I'll probably pull those up while you answer, Dan. But you know, how frequently will these sort of big leaps be? I know we're putting you on the spot here, you know, Mr. Sam Altman for now, but you know, like what is that ceiling, or do we just have no idea? Because you are our resident AI expert here.
Yeah, I'm the Sam Altman of the flooring industry. So yeah, it's a, you know, I kind of like to be reflective when big shifts in technology like this happen, right? And I mentioned this in the webinar. When I first used ChatGPT for the first time, it was a magical experience, right? Being able to just write a blog post about something and it to come back in seconds, that was a magical experience. And it reminded me of the first time I bought something online, right? I'm old enough to remember what that was like with Amazon way back in the day. You would just, you know, buy a book on Amazon and, you know, a week or two later, it would just show up at your house. That was a magical experience. And now I can pull up my phone and order something on Amazon and it will show up to my house in a couple hours.
Yeah.
And so much has progressed, you know, from that perspective, and we should expect a similar amount of progression when it comes to AI tools like this. So again, I'll keep saying it, we are very early in the development of these technologies, and the applications of these technologies are limitless in a lot of ways. And so some of that's really exciting. A little bit of it is a little scary, right? But I would say if you're a business owner and you're looking at ways to stay ahead of trends when it comes to technology, this is something that you need to be spending time just keeping up to date on. And the reason I say that is we work with a lot of customers today that are just, you know, starting to learn about their digital presence and how to create online experiences that mirror the experiences that they're creating for their customers in their showroom, when that probably should have started to happen 10, 15, 20-ish years ago. And so they're kind of playing catch up in some ways. And I think every one of the customers that we work with today has an opportunity to play from ahead, right? They can start acquiring some of these skills now and just slowly keep up to date with the changes as things progress over the next few years.
Spot on answer. I really don't have much to add to that other than like my random prediction. But, you know, I think if you want to use it in your business, when Dan's saying, you know, the flooring businesses who leverage this, very similar to some of the technology that we offer, right? Find someone in your store, make them the, you know, like Dan is, the AI expert, you know, give them the time to learn these platforms and figure out how to practically apply them and, you know, create that space for them to grow. Having 1 or 2 people there that really understand things can be the go-to person. Hey, we're having this problem. Can the AI help? Right? It doesn't have to be you necessarily. And as a business owner, we're in management at flooring businesses, you know, find someone that's hungry to learn, hungry to contribute, and someone that, you know, picks up technology easily. We know that technology doesn't always come easily, especially when it's a brand new platform. And, you know, you'll be able to stay with those significant leaps as things happen. All right, I think we got 1 or 2 more. Let's pull up the next question. All right. Nope, that was the same one. Here we go. This is a really good one because it's really hard to evaluate. So how do you evaluate the effectiveness of an AI task versus an employee one? And I guess the first question you have to ask yourself is, how can you tell the difference between their works unless you're splitting it? So, Dan, thoughts on this? This is a really good question.
Yeah, my answer is going to be simple: experiment, right? We just talked about how cost effective a lot of these tools are, and you're not going to be able to answer this question for yourself unless you experiment. And so that means, again, building familiarity with the tools that are out there and engaging with the many different features that they make up and doing a comparing and contrasting type of situation. You know, when I got access to the newest version of OpenAI's model that was able to decipher like large sets of data and quickly provide answers to the questions I was just natively asking it, that was another magical moment for me. And it unlocked a lot of the more manual tasks that I'm responsible for on a day-to-day basis. I wouldn't have been able to understand those intricacies unless I was in the tool playing with those features. So that would be my one big piece of advice. Again, these tools are there for you to leverage. They are cheap. Who knows how long they will be this cheap?
Yeah.
Spend the time and experiment. And I think you'll learn pretty quickly the things that they're really good at and the things that they still kind of struggle with. Jeff, do you feel like you're in the hot seat a little bit because I can get ChatGPT to write a better blog post for me than you?
Always. I'm always in the hot seat. Yeah, I got a little cooker under here. But honestly, in terms of this question, to me is, look, when you're evaluating someone's effectiveness, right, there has to be a goal, right? Like, what are you trying to accomplish here? So it's not fair to maybe look at my writing versus ChatGPT's because mine's clearly much more superior to theirs. But, you know, when you look at the task and the goal, you know, the work itself varies, but data doesn't, right? So as long as you have the same conditions, you know, how many clicks, how many leads, how many actions did this thing generate? Now, look, there's always other factors, seasonality, time, how the website, well, whatever the thing. There's always going to be other factors that, you know, vary. Those are always going to happen. To have structured outcomes that you're looking to achieve, and then you can look at the work side by side. And that's my only way to really answer it because it's so vast in terms of, you know, how do you evaluate it? And, you know, obviously the effectiveness is based on the outcomes, but, you know, if I outperformed AI, but it took me 10 hours to write something that AI did in 30 seconds, there's also a give and take there, right? So maybe I would rather do 3 AI posts versus my one, 10-hour whatever. And I would make that, I make that concession. So it really just depends on the makeup of your store, your business, how many employees you have. And then again, I would always like to say, make sure that the outcomes are set and structured. That's going to be the best way to evaluate the effectiveness there. Okay, I think we've got one more, and it doesn't look like we have any popping up in the chat. All right. No, that was the last one. All right. So quick, just a little bit over time today. But first off, thank you, Dan, presenting on this, being our scholarly, AI expert. Always really helpful, and really appreciate you making the time to help inspire other flooring retailers and businesses about how they can use these revolutionary, we don't use that word often, but truly these revolutionary technologies to improve their businesses. And again, invest your time, find someone dedicated to do it, and don't be scared of it. You can even talk to it, sometimes very friendly. So with that, thank you for joining us for a special Thursday training edition. We usually don't do Thursdays live, but we are doing it today because obviously a lot of great questions about how to use this powerful technology. So thank you, Dan. Appreciate all your expert advice. And we will see you guys next week with another edition of our Webinar Wednesdays where we have our product pricing showcase. It's not the price is right, but it's pretty close. So join us to find out how, and we will see y'all Wednesday. Have a great week, y'all.